A TD economist thinks that we're going to be okay on the east coast of Canada. We're not going to see a major market crash or a major market tank. So on August 29th, there was an article released called Canadian Housing Outlook Testing the Foundation. So this was written by a TD economist, and really in this article it talks about what's already happened in the Canadian housing market kind of across Canada, and it talks about what they think is going to happen going forward as well. So I'm going to talk today about some of the major points in this article because I found it very interesting. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit of my own personal opinion on where the market's going on the East Coast and in Halifax in particular, and why I think there's not going to be a major market correction or a major market crash in Halifax. To be clear, the market is correcting. We're down about 5.7% since the peak in April, but I don't think it's going to go much further than that. I think we are going to continue to see a slight correction, but I think we're safe from a major market crash is my point. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. Now, before I get into it, if you like this content and you want to see more, please click the like and subscribe to my channel. I post videos every week on YouTube about the Halifax real estate market and buyer and seller tips. Also, if you have any questions about real estate or if you'd like to book a call with me or an appointment with me, you can do so anytime in the Calendly link below in my description at a time when it's convenient for you. So Canada-wide, from the first quarter this year to the second quarter this year, sales dropped by about 20%. So this isn't price, this is the number of sales. And nationwide, the average house price dropped about 9% in that same time frame. Home prices so far have dropped the most in the major markets such as Ontario and BC. However, Alberta and Quebec also saw meaningful corrections. Throughout the prairies and the Atlantic provinces, this economist is stating that the change has not been as severe, and the Atlantic provinces really are being supported by some of the most affordable housing prices across the country. Now, I've talked about this in some of my other videos that yes, we as Haligonians feel that this pricing we're seeing now is crazy expensive, but the reality is across Canada, we are actually quite affordable when you compare us to the other major provinces. This economist is suggesting that the pandemic really changed buyer behavior overall throughout Canada, so people moving out of the major city centers to work more on the outskirts as they could then work remotely, and some of them even left their province altogether. Now, in our market here in Halifax, this definitely affected, what was happening throughout the pandemic, and it escalated the climb in our market here because a lot of people from Ontario, BC, Alberta, and so on were moving back home because they then could work remotely and it didn't really matter where they live. So they're moving back to Nova Scotia for, the easygoing lifestyle. We love the coast here and the people are incredible. So people really want that lifestyle, and it's a lot cheaper for them than living in Ontario or BC. And a lot of these people have been thinking about coming home for years, and really just the pandemic pushed them to make that jump. In terms of how deep this correction will be, this economist is stating that he thinks it's going to be about 20 to 25% in price from peak to trough. So from first quarter 2022 to first quarter 2023. And he's also suggesting that sales will fall about 35% in this time frame as well. Now, this is expected to not be as severe for some other markets like the Atlantic provinces and the prairies. Now, I can't speak too much about the rest of Canada because I follow mostly the Halifax and the Atlantic provinces, but I can tell you that in terms of a 20 to 25% price drop, I do not see that happening in Halifax or on the East Coast in general, but definitely not in the Halifax market. Now, we are down 5.7% from the peak in April, but I would expect that to continue, but 20 or 25%, no, I do not see that happening. That would basically mean that from right now at the 550 price point, we'd be dropping right down to about 450 to 470,000 average price point, and honestly, I just do not see that happening in Halifax. I would be personally shocked if that happened. Now, at the time of this article, they also suggested that we're going to see another rate hike in September, and they were correct. The rates just went up 75 basis points, and they were expecting it to not go up any further past that. Now, with the latest announcement, I think we might see another rate hike, but I think we are going to start seeing that to curb itself, and that will start coming back to reality next year as well. So that's a ton of info to take in. Those are just kind of some of the stats in this article I found personally the most interesting. But where I'm going with this is here's kind of three main reasons. I'm going to tie this in with my own personal opinion. So here's three main reasons why I don't think we're going to see a market crash here in Halifax, other than just a slight correction from where we're at right now. So number one, as I already discussed, the affordability in Halifax is crazy compared to the rest of Canada. And again, I know we think it's expensive. I do too, even as a realtor and working in this profession every day. But the reality is, as a whole, in the province of the country, we are very affordable compared to a lot of other areas in Canada. So I think this will help our cause in terms of, saving us from a market crash. Number two, I think that really as Halifax, the main Atlantic province, we've now been discovered by the rest of Canada and other parts of the world for that matter. So now that we've been discovered and people have really noticed how cheap our real estate here is and what you can get for your dollar, I think that that really escalated the market, and I don't see that ever coming back to, the way it was pre-pandemic. And reason number 3, and this is the big one and the main one in my opinion, is I just do not see supply catching up with the demand anytime soon. Keep in mind, from 2016 to 2021, we were the fastest growing downtown core in Canada. I know that's hard to believe, but Statistics Canada said that, and I can find the stat. I'll put the link down below in the description for you guys to take a look at that. But as our population grows, we can't keep up with the demand of new construction and new apartments and new houses. So I just don't see this correcting itself. We're adding about 20,000 people a year in Nova Scotia, so I really don't see the supply catching up with the demand. And as simple as it gets, if there's no supply, the demand will still be there, and it will just keep the price points up to where they're at right now. Now, the province has started doing some things to curb supply. They're looking at, fast tracking some developments, and they just announced that not long ago. I think it was 23,500 units. But the problem is, it's all well and good to fast track the permits and the builds, but if there's no builders available to build them and no tradespeople available to build them, it's not really going to help our problem. So I like what the province is doing. We're making strides, but I just don't think it's enough. And I think because of this, it's going to help save us from a major market crash here. As a reminder, the market is always cyclical. It's always going up and down and up and down, but long term, it's always going up historically. So there's only been 1 year in the last 40 years that in HRM, the price point has gone down on average year over year, and I don't really expect this to change. Now, we have seen a correction, 5.7% since the peak, but we're still up over 20% from this time last year. So, leading into the end of the year, I expect this to end up around 18 to 20% increase, 2022 versus 2021. And then leading into next year, I think we're going to see very modest increases, 4, 5, 6, 7%. That's what I think at this time. I might think a little bit different by the end of the year, but I'll do a whole new video for that, for my predictions for next year as we're leading into 2023. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I may be way off. The reality is nobody knows. This is all speculation based on historical data, based on stats right now and what we're seeing in the market day to day. Now, when we get to next year, I might think very differently. So hopefully I'm right and we don't see a major market crash, but the reality is nobody knows. And if they say they do, they're wrong. Even during the pandemic, a lot of major economists said it was going to crash the market, and it really did the total opposite. So these are professionals that monitor this stuff every day. So going forward, I don't think we're going to see a major market crash. I think we're safe from it, but we'll keep you updated every month as we always do. Now, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And if you like this content, feel free to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future content, as I post videos on YouTube every week about the Halifax real estate market and buyer and seller tips. Now, until next time, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.